So around New Year's this year, I decided to replace the standard stainless steel rigging on this boat. It was about 5 years and 15,000 nautical miles old. Thought it was a good idea. What I decided to replace it with was a combination of Dyneema and Spectra that I think ended up making the whole standing rigging simpler, easier to maintain and monitor, and stronger. So what I'd like to do with this video is share with you what I did in case it makes your life easier should you go the same route. It was probably maybe 8 or 9 years ago when I picked up a 600-foot spool of Spectra, primarily for like stern tie-up in deep anchorages like this. And you know, because it floats, it's really lightweight, compact. I made this little bag to stuff it all in so I could tie this up to the stern and pull out the front real easy. And but over time I've stolen bits and pieces of it for use here and there, sometimes even replacing other stainless steel hardware on the boat. The dinghy painter, it floats, so I don't have to worry about it getting wrapped around the prop and fouling the prop ever, which is very nice. I use it for the control lines for the monitor, self-steering. It's very abrasion resistant, so rubbing along something like this is not an issue. Rubbing along through here is not an issue. Here's another spot for the monitor control lines. Instead of a block here that were never lasting very long, more than a few thousand miles, I went to these because they would wear out, because this is constantly rubbing 24/7 while sailing on passage using that monitor self-steering. But this Spectra handles the chafe just great, rubbing through this aluminium block. So this is the traveler setup on this boat, and I replaced the blocks and stainless steel fitting with a continuous loop of Spectra and a pressing knot, so I can loosen this up and move it. You know, if usually I'm at one tack for hours or days at a time. It's not a race boat, so it's not really fast moving, but this is a very effective traveler that sticks, and you can move it to the left or the right, and it's very simple. Up top here, I use more Spectra again with a continuous loop. One time, long, far from land, this was a stainless steel fitting, and half of it broke. I just heard a ping, and I came and saw half of it just hanging there, so I just basically took it apart, made up another continuous loop, and left these screws in to kind of spread the load, but that basically has lasted a long time. I messed up, this is the second one, because there was a burr in here in the metal, so it wore this out. But I could notice it, so before I did anything about it, I just rotated the line. It's a continuous loop, so that worn out piece of Spectra was up here, and then this was solid, so it wasn't like a bad failure until I took it apart when I didn't need it sailing, and you know, sanded this down and made another loop. I mean, the lifelines on this boat, some of these, like on the starboard side, because the HF antenna, SSB antenna goes along it, I've had it, instead of metal, I've used Spectra. So this lower one here is, you know, many years old. It's worked fine here with the chafe, and and you can hang clothes on it and it doesn't get rusty. Like you hang clothes on wire, and so you get some rust stains on your clothes sometimes. So these Dyneema, Spectra, Amsteel lines are basically trademark names for the same thing. They're also known as, I need to read this, ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, or high modulus polyethylene, or high performance polyethylene. From what I've learned, in my experience, has been they're all like the same thing with different grades, maybe 95, 97, 98% static. Basically, compared to wire, they're all dynamic and they stretch. Compared to other ropes on the boat, they're all static and they do not stretch. Okay, let's go over exactly what I've done to the standing rigging on this boat, and let's do it from the top down. So that means a trip up the mast. So basically from the top, this is the top of the mast. I took a solid 3/16 stainless bolt. Actually, my brother Warren drilled the hole, helped mess up his back in the process. And this is a thick stainless steel plate. This bolt is probably ½ inch, 13 mils, and this is about 5 mils thick. And a big hole, rounded off, make sure there's no burrs in the metal. The Dremel splice. So this is the backstay, running backstays, and this is one of the side stays. So basically the backstays come off and on, but this side stay stays the same, it's static. So that's why this is 2 bits. I'll show you down below, there's one. I made one plate with 2. But basically this backstay is 4 years old. This was like ½ inch or 13 mil Spectra with, the braking strength, the tensile strength is like 5 times what this boat needs. So you can see what, over years of UV, it's basically, they say maybe it degrades 20% in 5 years from the UV, the braking strength. So that means in 5 years now, this thing is way more than double the braking strength of what the boat needs. That's it going down. But basically there's the other side. So the Dremel splice, and then loop it around through like that. Same thing on the other one. So this is the lower shrouds, where I just made one plate to fit them both, because these guys don't move, they're static. See if the light's better on this side. Basically that's the plate. One thing I should mention, because I tried this a few years ago, the last time I did the rigging, so I guess it was 5 years ago, I tried making this center stay Dyneema and these lower ones. Like basically I tried making the center one Dyneema and these outer ones wire, but it didn't jive because the Dyneema stretches compared to wire. So effectively, because of that stretch, it was effectively running on 2 stays instead of 3. And after 800 miles from the Caribbean up to Florida, I changed the center one to be wire, back to wire. So it's like go all or none. That's the basic deal. So here's another use of this. So these ladder rungs, I go up the shrouds, are this Dyneema is even smoother than metal wire, because I could not get, because I tie them on with these pressing knots. But here's a use for the double core, or this is 2 mil Spectra, this blue stuff. So it's got a breaking strength, a tensile strength of 240 kilograms. It's amazing, huh? Such small, thin stuff, 240 kilograms. That's like, 500 pounds or something. But no other line. This, with the prusik knot there, this doesn't slip. So everything else slipped. Well, yeah, I have to remember, every time you go up the mast, because we're on our way back down now, you have to stop, take a break, and look around. So this is Beatrix, I think, Bay. There's Pelorus Sound. This is all Marlborough Sounds, North Island, New Zealand. And other side of those hills there would be Cook Strait. And there's a lot of mussel farms around here. Lots of mussel farms, and then some salmon farms. You can see them over there. And there's the bay. So yeah, you always have to take a break to look around. I should also mention, I'm not going to go up, but this is the Mizzenmast, and it's done slightly differently. These are done with a thimble through the same standard rigging. You can see the thimbles. So basically a Bremel splice through a thimble. So this is the same thing. This is the thimble that is the bottom of all the shrouds. Bremel splice down through it. And then there's another thimble. These are acting like dead eyes of the old ships. And then basically I go through the hull and tie a stopper knot. This is a metal boat, so, and it's like 13 mil thick aluminium. If you have a metal boat, you're set. I basically pitch the chain plates, and you can see a hole. There we go. So basically it goes through that hole. This would be the biggest risk of chafing. So it probably will chafe against along here, and in that hole, I angled the hole down and rounded it out and smoothed it with fine grit sandpaper. But the great thing, as opposed to stainless, that's easy to look at. It's right on the side of the hull. I can see the chafing and replace this small line. That's maybe a meter of line when it starts looking bad. But this is probably, this is like 5 times stronger than it needs to be, or than the chain plate was before anyway. So basically use this like a dead eye, this thimble. And then so this is 10 mil Dyneema, and this is 1/4 inch or like 4.8 millimeter Spectra. Basically same kind of thing, but basically a Bremel splice on the bottom, and then go up and around through a couple times, crank on it tight, and then a half hitch, and do a bunch of half hitches. And basically use up the line and do your half hitches. So these guys here, seems like a lot of noise in here, but so there's 3 of them, 3 setups there. I think when I first did it, this creep, I put the thimbles up to the top lifeline, and then it creeped down quickly, like in a day, without even sailing. So I moved them up, they creeped down again in about a week. So this is the second splice. I'm probably going to have to re-splice it again, all these guys, to pick the thimble back up to the lifeline, so it's got more distance, because that's the one thing about this stuff, is it creeps, it stretches, and it's probably done doing the maximum of its stretch, but it will creep over time gradually. So I'll probably do it the 3rd and last time, move these thimbles up there. Let's look at it. I'll take one apart and show you. This is the Bremel splice down through here, and just go through. So that's, you start with a splice here, but then to make it a loop, a bigger loop, that kind of gets smaller, I go like that. So you're going to want to look on the internet. You can look up Dremel splice. I bet there's YouTube videos for that. You can go around through there, and then go through. Try to keep it even, so you're going in and out the same size to minimize friction. So don't make it criss and cross all the time. That's probably good to get it a good tight crank. And then use up the rest of the line. Kind of so you don't have any more line left, and leave some room, so that's about it. I can get it a bit more with the weight on it. And now I'll do the half inches. I would think, you know, because this line is so slippery, that 3 is minimum. So I would go for 3 minimum loops through the thimbles, and then 3 minimum half hitches. Probably 4 or 5 would be better. And then that won't slip. So when you go through your spreaders, there's a chafe point. So you could do the same kind of thing here where, you know, I go through the lifelines. I put some shrink wrap, some heat shrink, like insulation for electrical wiring. And, you know, that seems to work pretty good. Basically, it's pretty hard. So I would highly recommend that, even though this is good chafe proof in it. But this is even a bit better. You can monitor it. I feel pretty confident that what I've done on this boat is solid, because it's actually proven technology used for centuries by, you know, the early explorers, like Tasman, who, you know, first discovered this area for the Europeans. Cook, Drake, Columbus. I mean, they used the same thing, the same rigging style that I used on this boat. I just replaced their hemp rope with the Dyneema and their deadeyes with thimbles. When you think about it, the stainless steel used today on most boats like this fails. And it has not been around for, hasn't really been used for 100 years. You know, taking apart the stuff that I did that was only 5 years old, out of 19 strands, mostly it's 19 strand wire, 5 or 6 of them, 5 or 7 in the middle, and then around, they wrap around, and there are a few that were broken. You take the end pieces out, and I saw rust that you can't see until you open it up. So it's basically, it's complete failure, as opposed to this Dyneema stuff is, you can see how it degrades. You can watch it and observe it over time and replace it or change it when you need to. So I think it's actually safer, and the proven technology that was used for many centuries, up until maybe 100 years ago. And, you know, the one thing that I was thinking about doing this project was, where's the knowledge? So, sure, this design was used for many centuries, but not for the last few generations. So the people with experience with it are all gone. So, in a sense, if we want to go back there using the new the new materials, we're going to have to relearn a lot of knowledge that they lost. But I guess that's just the way it goes. If you have any ideas, if you've done the same thing, or maybe you do it and you experience something, a cool way of doing something that, I haven't done, please share it. That's the best way we can relearn the knowledge that was lost. Alright, that's it. Good luck. Over and out.